In the summer of 1932, deep within the uncharted heart of the Amazon, explorer Elias Ford awoke to the sound of rustling leaves and a pair of golden eyes staring back at him from the tree line. A small monkey watched him closely, its fur glimmering with flecks of gold dust, as though marked by some forgotten ritual. Drawn by curiosity, Elias offered it a piece of dried fruit. The creature took it, then turned and vanished into the green silence, glancing back, urging him onward. Through vines, mist, and the hum of unseen life he followed, until the jungle opened to a massive stone gate split with light. Behind it lay carvings of men kneeling before monkeys, and walls that shimmered as if alive. What secret had this creature guarded for centuries, and why had it chosen him to find it? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The jungle exhaled mist as dawn crept through the canopy. Elias sat on a log near the gate, the remnants of his campfire whispering to smoke. The compass rested in his palm, its bronze casing dulled by age. It had once belonged to Rowan, the man who taught him how to read stars when maps failed. Yet the needle didn't point north. It quivered, restless, and always swung back toward the stone gate he'd found the night before. He traced the carvings along its face, a serpent swallowing its tail. "You never told me this thing was broken," he murmured, though in his heart he knew Rowan had left it that way on purpose. Around him, the air was heavy with a scent he couldn't place, like copper and rain-soaked dust. Somewhere beyond the tree line, the golden-flecked monkey chattered softly, as if reminding him he wasn't alone. Elias unfolded his journal, its leather cracked and stained by years of failure. He drew the massive gate again, noting the vines curling around its seams. The carvings showed men kneeling before apes, heads bowed, as though in worship. No explorers had ever written of such things, not even Rowan, who claimed to have glimpsed civilizations older than scripture. Civilizations vanish, Rowan once told him, but the earth never forgets where they fell. Elias closed the journal and glanced toward the gate. For the first time in months, purpose replaced despair. He'd come seeking proof that humanity's beginnings weren't as proud as they believed, and here it was, half buried under moss and memory, but even discovery has its silence. He stood, brushing dirt from his trousers, and approached the stone. Its surface was warm, pulsing faintly, as if alive beneath centuries of decay. The compass needle spun once more, then froze, pointing directly at a hairline crack running down the center. Behind it came a sound, a low hum, deep and rhythmic like breath. Elias stepped back. "You're not sleeping, are you?" He whispered. He waited, listening. The jungle replied with cicadas and dripping leaves, nothing more. But when he turned away, something shifted, the faintest vibration underfoot. The hum deepened, then vanished as quickly as it came. He returned to his fire, heart steady but wary. From his pack, he retrieved a tin cup and poured a measure of black coffee gone cold. The bitterness grounded him, pulled him from superstition. Yet every so often, he glanced toward that compass, watching the needle twitch, like it wanted to warn him. By afternoon, he explored the perimeter, marking trees with chalk. The land curved inward unnaturally, as if bending around the ruins. The soil was rich with fragments of bone, bird, reptile, and something disturbingly human. He uncovered a rusted knife, its hilt engraved with initials not his own, E.R. Rowan's initials. Elias froze. His mentor had vanished 12 years ago, on an Amazon expedition no one ever confirmed. Could this be where he fell? He examined the knife more closely. Dried resin coated the blade, mixed with something darker, blood that time refused to claim. The compass needle shivered violently in his other hand. "You were here," Elias said under his breath. "And you wanted me to find this." The sky dimmed with sudden clouds, a brief rain sweeping through the clearing. Elias packed the blade carefully, tucking it beside the compass. When he looked up, the monkey was back, perched on a root near the gate. Clutching something small, it dropped a single fruit before darting off again, vanishing into the trees. Elias approached, crouching to inspect it. The fruit's skin glowed faintly under the fading light, its veins golden like the monkey's fur. He sliced it open. Inside was no seed, only a small bronze disc, carved with the same serpent sigil as the compass. The pattern repeated, exact and deliberate. He felt a strange calm. It was as though the jungle were answering him in pieces, artifact by artifact. As dusk bled into night, Elias sat by the fire once more, turning both objects over in his hands. "You led me here," he whispered to the compass, though he meant roan, or perhaps something older still. The fire crackled. Beyond it, the stone gate shimmered faintly in the dark, like a mirage refusing to fade. He flipped open his journal again and wrote, "Day 1, within the grove of mirrors. The compass turns not north, but toward the unknown. I sense purpose in this. The gate breathes when I look away. Perhaps it waits for memory, not man." He laid down, fatigue claiming him. Somewhere deep in the jungle a low call echoed, neither animal nor wind. The compass needle trembled once, then stilled completely, aimed unerringly at the heart of the ruins. And as Elias drifted to uneasy sleep, the jungle's breath rose and fell in rhythm with his own. Elias rose before dawn, drawn by the uneasy feeling that something had shifted in the night. The air was still, heavy with the scent of wet leaves and ash. The compass, which he'd left by the fire, now lay several feet away, its needle trembling as if exhausted from some unseen force. He pocketed it, slung his satchel over his shoulder, and approached the gate once more. The fissure running through the stone had widened slightly. From within came a soft exhale of mist, curling like breath through the crack. Elias lifted his lantern and squeezed through. The air on the other side was cooler, charged with the faint hum of something ancient enduring itself. Inside stretched a vast chamber where roots hung like chandeliers, dripping beads of water that fell into shallow pools. The walls were carved with figures, men kneeling before monkeys, monkeys holding torches, both facing a sun with no face. At the center stood a low altar surrounded by fragments of bone. They weren't fresh, yet not brittle either. Something about the damp air had kept them from fully surrendering to dust. Among them, half buried in black silt, glinted a piece of stone polished to glass. Elias knelt and brushed away the dirt. An obsidian pendant lay in his palm, no larger than a pocket watch. Its surface reflected his face dimly, though distorted, as if the stone remembered other faces layered atop his own. Two symbols were etched into its center, an eye crossed by a single line, and beneath it a spiral, sight and silence. He turned it over, and a faint vibration pulsed through his fingertips. Not mechanical, not alive, but aware. His pulse quickened. From somewhere deeper in the chamber came a soft, scuttling sound. He froze, listening. It wasn't the monkey. This noise had weight, claws against stone. He raised his lantern and saw only movement retreating into darkness. Animals find shelter anywhere, he told himself quietly. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever shared this place with him had been waiting. He pocketed the pendant and examined the walls more closely. The carvings told a story in sequence. First, a group of men arriving in a forest. Then their offerings laid before great ape-like figures. And finally, the men transformed, their faces elongating, their hands curling inward. Evolution reversed. The final panel showed the apes alone again, holding human skulls to the sky. Elias traced the lines, thinking of Rowan's obsession with the missing stare of mankind's past. What if the stare didn't lead upward at all? What if it spiraled backward into something older, something wiser, that chose silence over civilization? He turned as another droplet hit water. His reflection rippled in the pool beside him, and for an instant it wasn't his own. Another face looked back, dark-eyed and furred, mouth slightly open as if to speak. The moment he blinked, it was gone. Elias stumbled backward, breath unsteady. The pendant in his pocket warmed, faintly glowing through the fabric. He pulled it out. The spiral carved into it began to spin, not physically, but through an illusion of light, the way heat dances over metal. "Sight and silence," he whispered. "Show me or leave me blind." The pendant's glow dimmed, and with it came a sound barely audible, like a voice spoken underwater. A single word, though he couldn't place the language. It was both question and warning. Then the lantern flickered. A shape darted past the far edge of light, tall and hunched, its movement impossibly fluid. The air dropped cold. Elias steadied himself, raising the lantern higher. Only shadows remained. But in those shadows, dozens of small reflections stared back, eyes watching, unblinking. He didn't run. Instead, he whispered, "I mean no harm." The reflections blinked once, in unison, and vanished. Elias stood alone again. He could hear his heartbeat in the vast quiet. After several long breaths, he gathered his courage and approached the altar once more. Beneath it, he discovered a shallow niche containing a cracked clay urn filled with bones small enough to be human child's. Tucked within was a piece of parchment sealed in resin. He broke it open. The ink had bled into the fibers, but one phrase remained legible. "We listened, and they learned." Elias slipped both the urn and the pendant into his pack. Whatever had transpired here was not worship, it was exchange. A moment in history where mankind and another intelligence traded something precious, and one forgot the cost. He turned to leave. As he passed through the fissure, the pendant gave one last pulse of warmth, and for the briefest instant he thought he heard the whisper again. Fainter now, almost kind. Outside, the dawn had broken. Sunlight speared through the trees, turning the mist into ribbons of gold. The monkey perched on a branch, watching him silently, the same golden dust in its fur, shimmering like a memory. Elias nodded once. "I saw," he said softly, "and I'll keep the silence." The jungle breathed out, and everything fell still. Elias trudged along the narrow trail, sweat streaking his dust-stained face. The jungle pressed in from all sides, vines curling like fingers, the air thick with humidity and the scent of damp earth. From the pocket of his satchel, he retrieved the map of the lost steppe, careful not to tear its fragile edges. Each landmark seemed familiar yet rearranged. A river that had been east, now twisted west. A boulder that existed yesterday vanished. He frowned, tracing the lines with a finger. The map was alive in a way he hadn't anticipated. Where he stepped, the soil seemed to shift imperceptibly beneath him, leaving footprints that did not entirely match his own. Somewhere deep within, the golden monkey scuttled ahead. Pausing occasionally to glance back, ensuring he followed, Elias's thoughts drifted to his son. Michael, left behind in a life of ordinary routines. Letters unanswered, apologies unspoken. The guilt that had driven him to the Amazon now weighed on his shoulders. He realized that the jungle demanded more than curiosity. It demanded surrender. Along the path, he found remnants of past travelers, frayed ropes, rusted tools, a half-burnt journal. One page fluttered loose, revealing a crude sketch of the temple gates and figures bowing before ape-like beings. Footnotes in a shaky hand warned, "The path is not fixed. It watches. It corrects the lost." He felt the shift in air as sunlight danced through the canopy, casting patterns on the leaves. The map glowed faintly, guiding him to a hidden depression in the earth where water pooled like black glass. He leaned over and glimpsed reflections that weren't his own, faces long gone, perhaps explorers swallowed by the jungle's memory. By late afternoon, Elias arrived at a clearing that the map indicated was a junction of paths, though only one was visible. Moss-covered stones jutted from the ground like ribs of some ancient beast, and the compass needle spun erratically once again, then froze, pointing toward a dense copse. He knelt beside a cluster of stones and discovered a small cache, a clay vessel containing a coil of golden thread, brittle yet radiant as if preserved against time. Each strand seemed to hum faintly when touched, vibrating along the nerves of his fingers. The monkey watched, tilting its head, as though approving of this minor offering to the forest's unseen rules. Elias paused, considering the threads. Perhaps they were markers, remnants left by those who had come before him. Perhaps they were warnings, He tied one loosely around his wrist, a talisman and a breadcrumb in one. The map, now vibrating gently in his other hand, seemed satisfied. As night began to fall, the jungle transformed into a shadowed maze. Insects droned in rhythm with distant water, and the occasional rustle suggested movement just beyond lantern light. Elias felt the pull of something larger than the map or the monkey, an intelligence that wove the paths and shadows together. He pressed on, heart steady but wary, letting the golden thread trail behind him, marking his way. His mind wrestled with visions from the reflective pools inside the temple, the obsidian pendant's strange pulsing, and the sense that he was walking a line between the past and something enduring. At the far edge of the clearing, the map guided him to a small rise overlooking the temple gates. He paused, breath-catching. From this vantage, he could see the moss-clad stones gleaming faintly under the moonlight. A subtle motion, a flicker of golden fur, announced the monkey's presence. It clutched a tiny artifact, pressing it into the soil as if signaling him onward. Elias exhaled and tightened his grip on the map. It had led him here, not by geography alone, but by intent, by memory, by the whispers of the jungle itself. He realized that to proceed, he would need not only courage and skill, but patience, the quiet attentiveness to the pulse of the forest, and the wisdom to follow where it chose. With careful steps, he descended toward the temple, leaving the safety of the clearing behind. Somewhere above, the night sky fractured with light, illuminating the verdant expanse. And in that moment, he understood that the jungle did not merely hide its secrets. It demanded to be understood on its own terms. Elias pressed forward, the map shifting gently in his hands, guiding him into shadows that were at once protective and foreboding, carrying him toward the heart of the lost sanctuary and toward truths older than any compass could point. Elias paused at the edge of a shadowed grove, the thick underbrush muffling his footsteps. The jungle had grown quieter, as though the leaves themselves were holding their breath. In the filtered sunlight, he noticed a small jade glint among the roots of an ancient ceiba tree. Kneeling, he brushed away damp soil and moss to reveal a finely carved totem, its jewel faces staring back at him with unsettling serenity. One side was unmistakably human, angular jaw, furrowed brow, contemplative eyes. The other was a monkey, broad-faced, golden eyes alert and knowing. He turned it over in his hands, feeling the weight not just of the jade, but of the story it carried. This was no mere ornament. It was a message preserved across centuries, coexistence, compromise, and the consequences of neglecting the balance. The craftsmanship suggested reverence, ritual. Whoever had made this understood both species intimately, perhaps more intimately than humans would dare admit today. Elias continued along the grove, the totem clutched tightly. Around him, the jungle seemed to bend subtly, guiding him toward an open clearing. At its center lay a campsite long abandoned, a fire ring, scattered tools, journals yellowed and half-decayed. He recognized the handwriting immediately. It belonged to Rowan. His mentor's final expedition had stopped here, leaving traces of awe and fear intertwined. Carefully, he opened a journal and began to read. Pages described the interactions between humans and monkeys, communication through gestures, shared meals, and, remarkably, structured observation. The monkeys had roles: keepers, hunters, guides. Rowan's notes indicated that those who observed too closely were sometimes absorbed, vanished from the camp, leaving only the totem as a silent witness. A sudden movement caught Elias's eye. A golden-furred capuchin perched on a low branch, watching him with the same measured intensity he had seen days before. Its small hands rested on a similar jade fragment embedded in the ground, mirroring the totem he carried. The symmetry was deliberate, almost ceremonial. Elias realized the monkey's intelligence surpassed anything he had previously considered. It was not merely leading him, it was judging him, testing his intentions. He placed the totem beside the fragment. Instantly the jungle seemed to exhale. The air vibrated faintly, a pulse that ran through the roots, the leaves, and even the moss beneath his boots. The carvings on nearby trees began to shimmer faintly in the dim light, revealing patterns that traced the interactions between humans and monkeys over generations. Elias watched, transfixed, as the narrative unfolded silently before him. Humans arriving, sharing, misunderstanding, and departing. And always the guardians remained, observing, recording, correcting. From a low branch, the monkey tilted its head. Elias felt a connection, as though an understanding had passed between them. The jungle demanded respect, attention, and humility. Any attempt to dominate or exploit would be met with silence, or worse. The totem, now resting between them, seemed to anchor this lesson, a physical reminder of the delicate covenant. He studied the jade faces again, noting subtle details, etched lines that suggested not only observation, but empathy, expressions that hinted at emotion shared across species. This was a civilization of care, preservation, and awareness. And it had lasted longer than humanity itself, surviving through quiet vigilance rather than conquest. Elias lowered himself onto a root and exhaled, absorbing the magnitude of the lesson. The jungle was no longer merely a challenge to be overcome. It was a teacher demanding reflection. Every artifact he had discovered, the compass, the obsidian pendant, the shifting map, had guided him to this understanding. And now the totem's lesson was clear. Coexistence was the key, and arrogance had no place here. As dusk crept into the canopy, the golden monkey leapt from branch to branch, fading into shadow. Elias remained, clutching the jade totem, pondering the threads of memory and vigilance woven into the sanctuary. The ancient balance it represented was fragile yet enduring, a reminder that some truths were preserved not in libraries, but in the attentive gaze of those who refused to forget. The firelight from his small camp flickered as he recorded notes in his journal. Every observation, every artifact, every lesson, the mosaic of understanding was forming. And in the center of it all, the jade totem held steady, a quiet sentinel of what humanity had almost overlooked. The jungle exhaled again, and Elias realized he had reached a turning point. Knowledge had become responsibility. He would carry the weight of these discoveries and the totem with care, knowing that the jungle's guardians had permitted him to learn, but not to claim. Elias pressed deeper into the forest, the undergrowth clutching at his boots and legs, the air thick with damp earth and the scent of decay. The jungle seemed quieter now, almost reverent, as if it knew he carried the lessons of the totem with him. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in fractured shafts, illuminating twisted roots and moss-covered stones. Ahead, he discovered a shallow pit, partially concealed beneath a tangle of vines. Curiosity, sharpened by caution, drew him closer. Half buried in earth and detritus lay a skeleton, still wearing an iron mask fused to its features. The metal was dark and pitted, aged beyond imagination. He recognized the telltale shape of a human skull beneath it, yet the mouth opening of the mask had been forced shut, as if to silence its wearer for eternity. He knelt beside the remains, brushing aside soil to reveal a small bone key clenched tightly in the skeletal hand. The mask's presence was oppressive. It whispered of guilt, betrayal, and the consequences of failing the sanctuary. Elias felt the weight of centuries pressing against his chest. This had been the first keeper, the one who faltered, whose failure had necessitated secrecy and protection for all who came after. Around the pit, carvings etched into the stone walls told a tale he could almost read. Figures knelt before apes, human faces elongated in fear and awe. Others wore masks like this one, their eyes covered, their expressions unreadable. One figure, the first keeper, stood apart, facing a tribunal of monkeys, holding long staffs, judges of a civilization lost to time. Elias carefully removed the mask, turning it over in his hands. Cold iron pressed against his palm, heavier than its size suggested. Its weight was both physical and symbolic. Whoever wore this mask had carried not only the mantle of protector, but the burden of unspeakable acts. Acts meant to preserve the sanctity of the sanctuary at any cost. The golden-flecked monkey appeared then, moving silently along the roots above him. Its eyes, bright as polished amber, watched intently. Idaeus set the mask beside the skeleton and placed the bone key in the alcove above the pit. The gesture felt right, respectful, an acknowledgement of the keeper's duty and the jungle's silent governance. He rose and circled the pit, inspecting the chamber further. It was lined with mirrors of polished obsidian, reflecting fragments of the room endlessly. Each reflection carried the figure of the masked skeleton, multiplied and distorted, until Elias could barely distinguish one from another. He realized the chamber served as both warning and memory. Any who failed their purpose were remembered eternally, their deeds magnified and immortalized. As he examined the walls, he noticed a narrow stairway carved into the rock behind the pit. It descended into darkness, beckoning him with the promise of discovery and the echo of Roan's warnings. The iron mask seemed to pulse in his imagination, a silent reminder only those with true intent could proceed. Elias took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stair. The jungle behind him seemed to exhale, settling into a calm hush, the canopy above shielding the chamber from sun and wind. Each step carried him further into the sanctuary, deeper into the heart of secrets older than memory. A faint sound accompanied him, metal tapping gently against stone. He glanced back. The mask remained in place, inert, yet somehow present. Its story had been told. The keeper's vigilance was no longer needed here. Elias had understood the lesson. Vigilance without humility was meaningless, and knowledge without respect invited ruin. He moved forward with deliberate caution, the stairway winding downward like a spiral into the temple's consciousness. The chamber above remained, silent but indelible, a testament to what could be lost, what must be preserved, and the cost of looking too closely at truths humanity had long ignored. Somewhere below, the faint glow of moss and stone suggested the presence of another artifact, another secret waiting. Elias adjusted the strap of his satchel, securing the totem and pendant, and descended. Every echo of his footfall reminded him that he walked a path dictated not by maps or compasses, but by the judgment of the jungle itself. The golden monkey leapt silently from root to root, guiding him from above, and Elias understood that he was no longer alone. Every artifact he carried, every lesson he had learned, was a key not just to the temple, but to understanding the delicate balance of life preserved here for centuries. Elias crept through the winding corridors beneath the sanctuary, the damp air clinging to his skin. The shadows here moved differently, elongated, twisting with the rhythm of some unseen pulse. Moss and lichen carpeted the walls, their surfaces occasionally reflecting the faint glow of his lantern. The jungle above seemed distant, muffled, as if the temple itself absorbed sound to protect what lay within. He stumbled upon a small alcove, half-collapsed, containing a wooden chest partially obscured by roots. Inside, cushioned by faded velvet, lay the broken lens of Cura. Its surface was fractured, spiderwebbing from edge to center, yet it shimmered with an otherworldly clarity. Tentatively, Elias lifted it to eye level. The moment he looked through the lens, the world shifted. Reflections flickered across the glass. Faces, not his own, stared back. Human eyes, yes, but twisted subtly, furred in places, expressions layered with curiosity, judgment and intelligence that felt alien. For a heartbeat, he saw the golden monkey among them, surrounded by figures he couldn't identify, all watching him with a calm, measured awareness. He dropped the lens, stepping back, breath shallow. It was not broken in a conventional sense. It was a tool of perception, forcing him to witness perspectives beyond human understanding. The temple had designed this artifact to teach empathy, caution, and humility simultaneously. A rustle echoed from deeper in the chamber. Elias raised his lantern, Shadows flitted against walls polished by centuries of care, but nothing emerged. Still, he could sense eyes upon him, countless, intelligent, vigilant. He picked the lens up again, studying the fracture lines. Perhaps the distortion was deliberate, meant to prevent domination, to remind visitors that the temple's guardians were always present, even unseen. He remembered Rowan's journals, passages warning that some knowledge could not be possessed, only respected. The lens confirmed it. To truly understand the sanctuary, he could not approach as conqueror or scholar, only as observer, receptive and cautious. Beyond the alcove, a low passage led deeper. Through the fractured lens, the walls seemed to shimmer with life. Reflections danced like shadows of beings who had walked this path centuries before. Elias noticed a mural hidden in the corner, barely visible without the lens. Monkeys and humans intertwined in motion, performing tasks together, sharing sustenance and understanding. The fractured glass made it clear that the mural wasn't static. It depicted living memory, preserved in ways conventional history could not capture. He moved forward, lens in hand, seeing fragments of the sanctuary that the eye alone could not perceive. Hidden doors, outlined faintly, markings along the floor guiding his steps, and the subtle shimmer of air indicating the presence of something or someone watching. Each step reinforced a lesson the sanctuary had embedded in every artifact he'd encountered. Vision is never absolute. Perspective matters, judgment matters. Respect is mandatory. The golden-flecked monkey appeared at the end of the passage, its eyes meeting his. Elias realized it had been present all along, observing how he interpreted what he saw, testing his attentiveness, patience, and humility. He lowered the lens, acknowledging silently that he was being evaluated. That understanding alone was not enough. A faint hum resonated through the stone corridors, vibrating in his chest, urging him onward. The lens, though fragile and fractured, had expanded his perception. He could feel the sanctuary's awareness stretching toward him, cautious but willing to permit passage. Elias pocketed the lens, feeling the subtle pulse it retained. Every artifact he had uncovered seemed to speak to one another, forming a network of knowledge and guardianship older than memory. He adjusted his satchel and moved deeper into the sanctuary, guided by instinct, the golden monkey, and the lessons of the lens. With each step, the echoes of unseen observers whispered in the periphery, a gentle, unyielding reminder the sanctuary was alive, intelligent, and patient. Only those who embraced humility would survive to understand its truths fully. Elias stepped into a wide cavern, the air cooler, carrying the earthy scent of damp stone and ancient wood. At its center hung the silver chime of echoes, suspended from a beam entwined with roots. Each delicate rod was etched with symbols he did not recognize, their surfaces polished to a faint luminescence by decades of invisible hands brushing past. He lifted the chime carefully, allowing a gentle breeze to pass through it. The rods rang, producing notes that trembled through the cavern. Each sound carried layers, whispers of past explorers, murmurs of guardians, and faint, indecipherable warnings. Elias felt himself drawn into a kaleidoscope of memory, seeing flickers of faces, heart-rending cries, moments of awe and terror intertwined. The golden-flecked monkey sat atop a rock, tilting its head as if approving his cautious handling. The chime's resonance seemed to awaken it, and for a heartbeat, Elias glimpsed the sanctuary through its eyes, a network of vigilance, alive and aware, where every action, every misstep, left echoes recorded in some unseen ledger. He discovered small alcoves lining the cavern walls, each containing remnants of travelers long gone. Broken tools, rusted lanterns, fragments of journals, all vibrated faintly in resonance with the chime, carrying the collective memory of those who had ventured too far or too boldly. Elias realized that the artifact was more than a relic. It was a repository, a guardian in sound, preserving lessons in ways no parchment could convey. The chime's tones grew sharper, almost insistent, and he followed their rhythm to a raised platform at the far end of the cavern. There lay a mosaic, carefully preserved, depicting monkeys and humans in cycles of cooperation and conflict. Every scene seemed alive, shimmering faintly as if attuned to the chime's vibrations. Elias crouched, tracing the lines with his fingers, feeling the stories of triumph, failure, and vigilance seeping into his consciousness. The air shifted. He felt the weight of unseen observers. The chime vibrated in his hand again, and for an instant, the golden monkey's eyes mirrored human fear, sorrow, and longing simultaneously. Elias understood that the sanctuary was not passive. It was sentient in its care, recording, and teaching. Each artifact, each space was a lesson, and the chime's song carried them all, accessible only to those patient and reverent enough to listen. Elias placed the chime gently back on its beam. The cavern seemed to exhale, the whispers fading into an ambient silence. He felt a subtle clarity, as if the combined memories had aligned in his mind, revealing connections he had not yet understood. The broken lens, the jade totem, the iron mask, all were part of a larger narrative. The golden monkey leapt from a root to the floor, dropping a small, polished stone beside him. It shimmered faintly in the lantern's light. Elias picked it up and noticed an inscription. Faint and worn, he who listens carries the burden of understanding. He nodded, feeling the weight of the artifact's lesson settle into his shoulders. The sanctuary's corridors stretched ahead, darker and more intricate than before. Elias tightened his satchel, keeping the chime in mind, its tones still echoing softly in his memory. He realized that every step forward would be guided by the cumulative knowledge of those who had come before, preserved not in stone alone, but in vibration, memory, and attentive observation. As he continued, the chime's subtle resonance remained in his mind, a quiet companion. The jungle outside had fallen silent at dusk, leaving only the sanctuary's pulse. He understood now that every artifact was both guide and guardian, ensuring that those who sought the temple's secrets respected the delicate equilibrium maintained over centuries. Elias took a final look at the silver chime, then moved onward, each step measured, deliberate, aware that the echoes of the past were watching him, evaluating his intent, and shaping his journey deeper into the sanctuary's heart. Elias entered a cavern whose walls glistened with moisture, reflecting his lantern light like a constellation trapped underground. At the center, resting on a pedestal carved from bedrock, was the crystal skull of Vayu. Its surface was flawless, yet faintly misted, as if breathing slowly. When he leaned closer, he saw the faint trace of mineral veins within, pulsating in patterns that seemed to correspond with the rhythm of the sanctuary itself. He picked it up carefully, feeling a cool hum travel through his fingers. Light from his lantern refracted inside, and for a moment the walls around him shifted. Hidden corridors and alcoves appeared in faint outlines, as if the skull illuminated secrets long obscured by moss and shadow. The golden-flecked monkey perched on a ledge above, watching silently. Its presence reminded Elias of the temple's guardianship. The creatures were not mere guides. They were stewards of memory, ensuring balance and testing intent. Elias traced the contours of the skull, marveling at its craftsmanship. Each curve suggested purpose beyond ornamentation. Legends in Roan's notes hinted at a relic that could reveal what the untrained eye could not see, mapping paths invisible to ordinary exploration. Now in his hands, the artifact proved the truth. Following the crystal's pulse, he discovered a hidden doorway concealed by overgrown vines and rock. The skull vibrated gently as he approached, a subtle thrum of acknowledgement. Elias realized that the artifact responded not just to light, but to intent. The temple itself had designed it to guide only those deemed worthy. He slipped through the doorway and descended a narrow stairwell, walls slick with moss and time. As he moved, the skull's internal glow intensified, highlighting carvings along the walls that depicted apes and humans working in tandem, building, sharing, observing. Each panel seemed alive, animated subtly as if it remembered movement. At the bottom, the passage opened into a chamber lined with stone basins filled with faintly luminescent water. The crystal skull's pulse synchronized with the rhythm of the liquid, creating a soft, almost musical vibration. Elias knelt and held it over a basin. Light fractured through the quartz, revealing inscriptions on the basin's edge, instructions in an unfamiliar script, seemingly describing the next step in a ritual or path through the sanctuary. The monkey dropped a small wooden token into the water, which floated momentarily before settling on the basin's floor. The skull's light highlighted its carvings, depicting an ape and human holding the same object together. Elias understood. This was a lesson in cooperation, a reminder that the sanctuary's secrets demanded respect for its natural and intelligent inhabitants alike. He spent hours in the chamber, studying patterns, sketching the reflected corridors in his journal. The skull pulsed in response to his focus, providing guidance without speech. Each discovery deepened his understanding, revealing that the temple was not merely a site of relics, but a living record, a carefully preserved interaction between species, each artifact a note in the sanctuary's ongoing narrative. By dusk, Elias emerged from the hidden doorway, the crystal skull cradled carefully in his satchel. The jungle outside had shifted in subtle ways, the mist heavier, the soundscape quieter. The golden-flecked monkey followed briefly, then vanished into the treetops, leaving him alone with the pulse of discovery. Elias understood that the skull was more than a relic. It was a key. Through it, the sanctuary had revealed hidden paths, subtle lessons, and a network of memory intertwined with guardianship. The temple's logic was clear. Knowledge demanded responsibility, and vision alone was insufficient. One had to perceive, respect, and act in harmony with what had endured. As night fell, he camped near a stream, the skull resting beside him. Its faint internal pulse echoed the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He realized that each artifact, compass, pendant, totem, mask, lens, chime, and now skull, was part of a growing constellation of understanding, leading him deeper not just into the temple, but into comprehension of the intelligence and vigilance that had persisted far longer than humanity itself. Elias stepped into a chamber where the air was unusually still, almost reverent. A faint metallic gleam caught his eye at the far end, the copper mirror of reflection resting atop a carved pedestal shaped like intertwined roots and vines. Its surface was smooth and unblemished, though it carried the faint patina of age. Carefully he lifted it, and the metal felt warm beneath his fingers, as if alive with purpose. When he peered into the mirror, his own face did not greet him. Instead, he saw fragments, moments from his past, decisions he had made, and subtle glimpses of choices yet untraveled. A younger Elias, turning away from his family for expeditions. A hesitation to call Michael when he should have. A moment of fear that almost cost him his life in the temple. Each reflection shimmered, shifting like liquid copper, revealing not judgment but awareness, urging understanding. The golden-flecked monkey observed from a ledge, tilting its head, as though testing whether he could comprehend what he saw without panic or arrogance. Elias studied the mirror longer, noting how it revealed consequences of both action and inaction. One reflection showed him placing the obsidian pendant on the altar, another misplacing it, resulting in a ripple of events that led to ruin. The mirror emphasized responsibility. Every artifact, every choice carried weight beyond the immediate moment. Behind the pedestal, carvings traced a continuous narrative, humans interacting with monkeys, the cycles of learning, mistakes, and guidance flowing in patterns over centuries. Some humans faltered, some learned, and the reflections in the mirror confirmed that the temple did not punish recklessly, but preserved understanding. Elias felt the gravity of this realization settle on him. It was not power the temple demanded, but insight, respect, and careful judgment. He turned the mirror, observing the room beyond its reflection. Subtle changes became visible. hidden alcoves previously unnoticed, fissures in the walls, faint lines in the floor that formed pathways. The artifact acted as both teacher and guide, revealing elements of the sanctuary imperceptible to ordinary vision. Elias recognized that those who had placed these artifacts had intended them as tests. Perception alone was insufficient. The observer must engage with comprehension. The mirror also reflected the golden monkey in ways the eye alone could not perceive. It showed its movements ahead of time, subtle decisions in its path, and hints of understanding communicated silently between it and the jungle. Elias realized that this small creature was not just a guide, but a participant in a complex network of intelligence that transcended species. He felt both humility and awe. He replaced the mirror carefully, noting the faint warmth remaining on his hands. The chamber seemed to pulse subtly in response, affirming that he had understood its lesson. The echoes of past visitors lingered faintly in the air, but Elias sensed no judgment, only acknowledgement. His path forward required awareness not only of the sanctuary's physical layout, but of the interconnected lessons embedded in each artifact. The copper mirror had revealed one undeniable truth. Foresight, reflection, and consideration were as vital as courage and strength. The sanctuary's intelligence, preserved through centuries of observation and guardianship, demanded not just exploration, but understanding of consequence. Elias left the chamber with a renewed sense of purpose, each step measured, guided by the knowledge imparted by the mirror. Outside, the jungle had grown denser as evening fell. Moonlight filtered through the canopy, illuminating the path ahead faintly. Elias adjusted his satchel, feeling the combined weight of the artifacts. The pendant, the jade totem, the iron mask, the lens, the chime, the crystal skull, and now the lessons of the copper mirror. Each one was a guide, a teacher, and a guardian. The golden-flecked monkey leapt silently through the undergrowth, pausing once to glance back. Elias nodded in acknowledgement. He understood that the sanctuary's tests were far from over. Each artifact was part of a continuum, a chain of lessons stretching across centuries, designed to challenge not only skill, but wisdom, not only courage, but insight. He exhaled slowly, feeling both anticipation and humility. The path ahead was illuminated not merely by lantern light, but by understanding, a fragile yet growing comprehension of the intelligence and vigilance that had preserved this place long before humanity's reach extended this far. Elias entered a narrow chamber whose walls glistened with moisture, the floor slick with centuries of condensation. At the center rested the obsidian dagger of the Watchers, carefully positioned atop a stone plinth shaped like outstretched hands. Its surface absorbed the light from his lantern, black and glossy, reflecting only shadows. The edges were impossibly sharp, though untouched by corrosion. He approached cautiously, aware that this artifact carried meaning beyond its physical form. As he lifted the dagger, a subtle vibration pulsed through the stone beneath his feet. The golden-flecked monkey appeared on a low beam above, tilting its head, watching closely. Elias sensed that the dagger was both a warning and a test. Courage alone would not suffice. Understanding the weight of responsibility was required. The blade seemed to hum in his palm, attuned to his pulse. He noticed faint carvings along the hilt, depicting humans and monkeys in intricate sequences, moments of conflict, collaboration, and ritual. Each symbol suggested that the dagger was used in ceremonial acts, marking pivotal decisions, and recording choices in ways that left no written trace, but were preserved through the temple's consciousness. Elias traced a carving showing a human kneeling before the golden-furred monkeys, presenting the dagger in a ritual of trust. A chill ran down his spine. The sanctuary was not merely protective. It demanded acknowledgement, humility, and adherence to rules older than memory. The dagger was a tool of judgment, a reminder that actions mattered as much as intent. He explored the chamber further, discovering small basins filled with water, reflecting the dagger's image in fractured light. Each basin displayed scenes beyond perception, like reflections of past initiates. Some wielded the dagger with respect, others faltered, their mistakes captured forever in the sanctuary's memory. Elias realized the blade served not to punish, but to teach. A conduit of the temple's wisdom, as he handled it, the obsidian seemed to respond, faint pulses running through the stone, guiding him to a hidden alcove. Inside lay fragments of bone, tiny tools, and another relic, a small bronze medallion etched with symbols resembling the dagger's carvings. The juxtaposition suggested continuity, a network of guardianship and observation that spanned generations. The monkey dropped a small leaf near the pedestal, signaling its satisfaction with his cautious handling. Elias exhaled slowly, understanding that his progress was not measured by speed or force, but by discernment and respect. The dagger was a reminder that the sanctuary's wisdom required more than exploration. It demanded integrity. Beyond the chamber, a narrow passage led deeper, faint carvings along the walls, illuminated by the dagger's subtle reflection. Elias noted the sequence, committing each symbol to memory. The path ahead would test him, and the obsidian dagger was both compass and sentinel, guiding him while reminding him of the consequences of misjudgment. He replaced the dagger gently on its plinth, feeling the weight of centuries in the action. The chamber exhaled a silence that was almost alive, acknowledging his understanding. Each artifact he carried, pendant, jade totem, iron mask, lens, chime, crystal skull, copper mirror, and now the lessons of the obsidian dagger formed a chain of wisdom, preparing him for the heart of the sanctuary. Elias stepped into the passage beyond, feeling the pulse of the jungle and temple intertwine. The golden-flecked monkey followed briefly, then disappeared into shadow. Each step reminded him that he was guided not by maps, lanterns, or compasses alone, but by the vigilance of the sanctuary and the careful lessons embedded in each artifact. The obsidian dagger remained in his memory, sharp yet tempered, a symbol of caution, courage, and insight. Elias understood that the sanctuary's true test lay ahead, and that the knowledge imparted by the artifacts was a tool, not a guarantee. He pressed forward, ready to confront what waited in the deeper chambers, carrying the weight of history, responsibility, and understanding with each measured step. Elias followed the winding corridor deeper into the sanctuary, the walls narrowing and dampness thickening the air. A faint glimmer caught his eye ahead. Resting on a stone alcove, half hidden by moss, was a ceramic vessel of whispering waters. Its surface was smooth, glazed in pale blue with faint streaks of white, like sunlight dancing on a rippling stream. He knelt carefully, brushing away layers of dust and detritus before lifting the vessel. The golden-flecked monkey appeared at the edge of the corridor, tilting its head as though monitoring his actions. Elias's fingers trembled slightly as he pried the vessel's lid. A soft hiss escaped, and from within came faint, indistinct sounds, low murmurs, footsteps, and voices echoing as if carried through centuries. He held the vessel close to his ear. Through its whispers, he began to discern fragments of the temple's hidden life, explorers entering for the first time, guardians moving silently, the careful rituals of apes tending the sacred spaces. Conversations were half-remembered, incomplete, yet brimming with intent and purpose. The vessel carried memory, not static like a painting, but dynamic, alive and layered. Elias traced the patterns on the ceramic, noting symbols etched around the rim. They suggested a codified system, a way to interpret the whispers, revealing events that had transpired and choices made by those who entered the sanctuary before him. Some had approached respectfully, learning from observation. Others had been reckless, leaving traces of disruption, captured forever within the vessel's delicate interior. The monkey leapt closer, nudging the vessel gently. Elias understood that the creature's presence was not only oversight, but instruction. He needed to listen with care, to absorb the lessons encoded in the whispers. Slowly, Elias followed the faint sounds to a corner of the chamber where shadows suggested hidden alcoves. Through the vessel, he could perceive what the eye alone would miss, a small door obscured by roots, and carvings on the wall depicting rituals that had once taken place in secrecy. He moved to the door, feeling the weight of knowledge pressing against his chest. The whispers from the vessel grew slightly louder, almost insistent, guiding him as if the combined memory of past visitors were giving approval for the next step. Elias realized that the sanctuary preserved not only objects, but the echoes of human and ape interaction, a continuous thread of experience, observation, and teaching. Elias set the vessel down carefully, leaning in to note details in the alcove's carvings. The scenes illustrated coordination between humans and monkeys, shared vigilance, and ceremonial rites performed to honor the balance of life within the sanctuary. Every action was deliberate. Every artifact, every vessel, served as a keeper of memory and a reminder of responsibility. He paused, reflecting on the progression of his journey. Each artifact, the obsidian pendant, jade totem, iron mask, broken lens, silver chime, crystal skull, copper mirror, obsidian dagger, and now the ceramic vessel had imparted lessons, some subtle, some profound. They taught humility, patience, perception, and the importance of choice. The chamber around him seemed to breathe. The whispers faded, leaving only an ambient resonance that Elias recognized as the sanctuary's approval. He secured the vessel in his satchel, knowing its lessons would inform every next step. Beyond the alcove, the corridor continued into darkness, but with the vessel's memory guiding him, he felt a clearer understanding of the space and its intricate rules. As he moved forward, the golden-flecked monkey vanished silently into the shadows, leaving him alone with the echoes, the light of his lantern, and the quiet pulse of the sanctuary. Elias understood now that the temple's wisdom was cumulative, each artifact a note in a symphony of lessons designed to test perception, judgment, and respect. The vessel had added another layer, revealing not only the past, but the consequences of the choices made within these hallowed walls. Elias stepped into a low-ceilinged chamber where the air was cool and dense, carrying a faint metallic tang. At its center, resting atop a stone plinth, lay the golden amulet of the Silent Watch. Its surface gleamed despite the dim light, the intricate symbols etched along its circumference, catching the lantern's glow like sunlight on water. The craftsmanship was precise, delicate yet enduring, suggesting reverence and vigilance beyond what words could convey. He reached for it carefully, lifting the amulet and feeling its weight settle comfortably in his palm. The golden-flecked monkey observed from a ledge above, eyes sharp and unblinking. As Elias fastened the amulet around his neck, a subtle awareness expanded within him. Sounds previously unnoticed, the faint rustle of roots shifting, the distant tap of unseen movement, the soft echo of dripping water became pronounced, each detail pointing to hidden aspects of the sanctuary. The symbols on the amulet seemed to pulse faintly, resonating with the sanctuary's own rhythm. Elias realized it was not merely ornamental. It was a tool designed to attune its wearer to the vigilance of the temple, to sense guardians and detect subtle disturbances. The artifact enhanced perception, revealing threats and opportunities that would otherwise remain invisible. Moving forward, Elias noticed details in the walls that had escaped him before, slight indentations, moss patterns subtly different, fissures in the stone suggesting concealed passages. Every step carried new awareness, a heightened sensitivity to the environment and the intelligent presence that permeated the temple. He understood that the amulet was as much a teacher as a guide, reminding him that complacency could be fatal. The golden-flecked monkey leapt from a root to a stone ledge ahead, leading him to a small alcove containing a mosaic floor. The tiles depicted humans and monkeys in a continuous cycle, intertwined and observant. The amulet's pulse grew in intensity as Elias stepped closer, highlighting aspects of the mosaic invisible to the naked eye. Certain figures glimmered faintly, tracing paths through the sanctuary as though revealing movements meant to guide visitors safely and impart wisdom along the way. He knelt to examine the mosaic, noting subtle inscriptions around its edges. They spoke of vigilance, patience, and the balance of observation and action. The amulet's resonance amplified these lessons, embedding them in his consciousness without words. Elias realized the artifact functioned as a bridge between knowledge and instinct, teaching him to perceive both the seen and unseen. As he stood and moved deeper into the chamber, he sensed a faint metallic hum, almost imperceptible. The amulet's pulse intensified, and he recognized the rhythm. The sanctuary was alive, aware, and measuring his comprehension. Every artifact he had encountered, the jade totem, iron mask, broken lens, silver chime, crystal skull, copper mirror, obsidian dagger, ceramic vessel, and now the golden amulet, was a step in this ongoing evaluation. Preparing him for the challenges ahead, he paused near a narrow stairway, descending into darkness. The amulet vibrated subtly, guiding him toward a hidden threshold. Elias realized that it was not simply providing information, but offering protection, a quiet reassurance from the sanctuary itself. His awareness extended beyond sight and hearing. It encompassed intuition, caution, and anticipation. The golden-flecked monkey remained at the chamber entrance, silent and watchful, then vanished with a soft rustle of leaves. Elias exhaled, feeling the amulet's presence steady him, sharpening his perception and reinforcing the lessons of patience, humility, and respect. He secured the amulet beneath his shirt, continuing down the stairway with deliberate steps. The pulse it imparted synchronized with his own heartbeat, attuning him to the sanctuary's hidden rhythms. Every artifact he had collected now seemed connected, a web of guidance, memory, and vigilance extending centuries into the past and threading forward into the unknown. The sanctuary's corridors stretched endlessly into shadow, but with the golden amulet's insight, Elias felt prepared to navigate the labyrinth, aware of the subtle guardians, and ready to face the challenges awaiting him at the heart of the temple. Elias entered a chamber narrower than the previous ones, its walls pressed close, damp and cool. At the center, upon a stone altar carved into the shape of interlaced vines, rested the obsidian figurine of the twin guardians. Its surface was polished to a mirror-like sheen, reflecting his lantern's light in fragmented patterns that danced across the walls. The twins, their arms crossed in eternal vigilance, seemed to watch him. He knelt before the figurine, noting the fine craftsmanship, the subtle curvature of muscles, the detailed facial expressions, the tension captured in a moment of perpetual readiness. A faint vibration ran through the stone beneath his knees, resonating with the figurine as if it were attuned to his presence. The golden-flecked monkey appeared atop a ledge, observing silently. Elias understood instinctively that this artifact was both sentinel and key. Lifting the figurine carefully, he felt its weight solid and grounding. The twins' posture conveyed balance and coordination, their vigilance not solitary but cooperative, an eternal reminder that the sanctuary's guardians worked in tandem. The carvings on the base depicted scenes of humans and monkeys navigating the sanctuary together, crossing hidden pathways, avoiding traps, and performing rituals with careful attention to detail. Elias's attention was drawn to faint lines on the chamber floor, barely visible beneath centuries of moss. As he placed the figurine upon these lines, a subtle click echoed through the chamber. The walls shifted imperceptibly, revealing a narrow doorway previously concealed by stone. The obsidian twins had unlocked it, not through magic, but through alignment and understanding of intent. He paused, observing the doorway. The golden-flecked monkey perched nearby, watching intently, eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and caution. Elias realized that the sanctuary evaluated not just knowledge, but respect and comprehension of its intricate systems. Each artifact interacted with the next, a chain of lessons testing insight and prudence. As he proceeded through the newly revealed passage, the figurine tucked carefully in his satchel, Elias noticed the walls were etched with murals illustrating sequences of guardianship. Monkeys and humans moved in synchronized steps, responding to cues invisible to ordinary observers. The obsidian twins' presence now felt tangible. Their vigilance extended through the corridors, guiding and safeguarding those who respected the sanctuary's laws. He paused to trace the lines of a mural, observing how the guardians intervened subtly to prevent errors, how cooperation ensured survival. The figurine's lesson was clear. Understanding required alignment, not domination. Each decision carried consequence, each action was observed, and the balance of the sanctuary depended on careful participation. Deeper into the passage, the air grew heavier, carrying a faint metallic scent. Elias's lantern illuminated a series of stone basins, their surfaces engraved with the same twin guardians in various positions. The figurine resonated in his satchel, guiding him to the correct sequence of basins to step past. A misstep would have triggered subtle shifts in the floor, potentially trapping him. He moved deliberately, each step informed by the artifact's silent instruction. By the time he reached the end of the passage, a wider chamber opened, bathed in a faint green luminescence from phosphorescent moss. The obsidian figurine vibrated faintly in his hand, a quiet affirmation that he had followed the sanctuary's logic correctly. The golden-flecked monkey watched from above, then disappeared silently, leaving Elias alone with the artifact and the quiet hum of the temple. He set the figurine carefully on a small pedestal in the center of the chamber, noting how its presence seemed to stabilize the space. The corridors beyond felt less treacherous, more defined, as if the temple itself recognized his respect and comprehension. Elias understood that each artifact was more than a relic. It was a participant in a dialogue spanning centuries. With the obsidian figurine safely in place, he pressed forward into the sanctuary's deeper chambers, feeling a growing awareness of the interconnected vigilance that sustained this hidden world. Every artifact he carried, each lesson absorbed, prepared him for what awaited, ensuring that his steps were guided by observation, respect, and the wisdom of guardians long past. Elias stepped into a vast chamber, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into shadow, the air warm and tinged with the scent of earth and resin. At the center, displayed on a carved stone pedestal, rested the amber pendant of time's pulse. The amber was golden and translucent, catching his lantern's glow, and within it, a tiny insect appeared frozen, yet somehow alive, suspended in eternal motion. He lifted the pendant carefully, feeling a faint vibration beneath his fingers, as if it resonated with the sanctuary itself. The golden-flecked monkey observed silently from a high ledge, eyes reflecting understanding and expectation. Elias sensed that this artifact, like the others, was not merely decorative. It measured and revealed rhythms, subtle pulses of movement, the sanctuary's breathing, the timing of unseen guardians' patrols, and the flow of energy through its corridors. Holding the pendant close, he noticed the insect's pulse synchronize with his heartbeat. The rhythm guided him, revealing corridors previously hidden in shadow, slight depressions in the stone floor that indicated safe passage, and walls where reliefs shifted subtly to reveal directions. Each beat of the pendant imparted temporal awareness, teaching him patience and the importance of timing, a skill essential to navigating the sanctuary safely. The murals along the walls became more vivid as he moved, the amber's pulse highlighting sequences of human and monkey interaction, careful exchanges of tools, ritual offerings, and coordinated movements that emphasized observation and attentiveness. Elias understood that the sanctuary rewarded those who aligned themselves with its tempo, whose actions mirrored its rhythms rather than attempting to force their own pace. He paused at a fork in the corridor, letting the pendant's subtle thrum guide him. One path appeared ordinary, the other, slightly recessed, shimmered faintly in the amber light. Trusting the artifact's guidance, he followed the hidden corridor, noticing faint carvings on the walls that depicted the passage of time in symbolic form, cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. The golden-flecked monkey had disappeared, leaving Elias to rely entirely on the pendant's pulse and his own attentiveness. Deeper into the passage, he found a shallow basin filled with clear water. The amber pendant glowed faintly, and when he held it over the basin, ripples formed patterns on the surface, revealing inscriptions around the edge. These inscriptions outlined sequences of movement and cautionary lessons, subtly guiding travelers through the sanctuary without revealing explicit instructions. Elias recognized that the artifact's pulse was a conduit for learning, transmitting information in rhythm rather than words. He lingered, studying the basin and its markings, absorbing the lesson that patience and observation were as vital as courage and strength. The amber pendant had transformed perception into guidance, teaching that each step must honor the sanctuary's tempo and the intelligence that governed it. By the time he resumed his journey, Elias felt a deeper attunement to the sanctuary. Every artifact he had collected, the jade totem, iron mask, broken lens, silver chime, crystal skull, copper mirror, obsidian dagger, ceramic vessel, golden amulet, obsidian figurine, and now the amber pendant had sharpened his senses, built patience, and revealed layers of meaning embedded in the sanctuary's architecture and guardianship. He pressed onward, the amber pendant tucked safely against his chest, its pulse a constant guide. Each corridor now felt alive, resonant with subtle rhythms, instructing him in the sanctuary's hidden logic. Time itself seemed malleable, flowing in concert with the lessons imparted by centuries of guardians and visitors, preparing him for the trials that awaited at the heart of the temple. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the cumulative weight and guidance of the artifacts strengthen his resolve. The sanctuary's deep secrets were within reach, but only for those who respected its tempo, its vigilance, and its intelligence. With the amber pendant's pulse echoing faintly in his mind, he continued deeper into the hidden world. Ready to confront the challenges yet unseen, Elias entered a chamber larger than any he had seen, its walls etched with intricate patterns that shimmered faintly in the lantern light. At the center, resting on a low pedestal, was the stone tablet of forgotten names. The surface was weathered, but the carvings remained sharp, listing names of humans and apes in intertwined columns. Some were decorated with symbols of reverence, others marked with warning signs. He knelt before the tablet, tracing the lines carefully. The golden-flecked monkey perched nearby, observing silently. Elias felt a weight in the air, a gravity born of centuries of memory. This artifact, unlike the others, preserved legacy, the choices, achievements, and missteps of those who had walked the sanctuary long before him. As he studied the carvings, he noticed subtle connections between the symbols and events depicted elsewhere in the sanctuary. One name corresponded to the obsidian dagger, another linked to the crystal skull. Each marked a moment of significance, a decision, an action, a lesson learned or ignored. The tablet transformed the sanctuary from a series of rooms into a living narrative, a chronicle of engagement and consequence. He ran his fingers across the symbols, feeling a faint vibration, as if the tablet acknowledged his attention. The names were more than text. They were echoes, carrying the essence of those who had interacted with the temple, preserving their wisdom and warnings. Elias understood that the sanctuary's intelligence was cumulative, layered with centuries of observation, recording, and subtle instruction. A faint breeze stirred the chamber, carrying whispers from the past. He imagined the explorers who had come before, their footsteps guided or misled by the same artifacts now in his possession. Some had succumbed to impatience or arrogance. Others had advanced through respect and discernment. The tablet distilled these histories into an accessible form, a guide for those attentive enough to read between the lines. The golden-flecked monkey nudged a small stone toward him. Elias picked it up, noticing faint carvings that mirrored symbols on the tablet. It seemed to reinforce the lesson. Legacy and memory were intertwined, and understanding one required engagement with the other. The sanctuary did not merely preserve objects, It preserved the essence of experience, teaching that choices mattered beyond immediate consequences. Elias rose. Noting the patterns in the tablet corresponded to the layout of the chamber and the corridors beyond. Certain names glimmered faintly in the lantern light, aligning with pathways, artifacts, and alcoves. He realized that the sanctuary used memory to map space, guiding attentive visitors while discouraging rash action. The tablet was both record and compass, chronicling the past to shape the present journey. He touched the tablet one last time, committing the names and symbols to memory. The weight of centuries settled in his mind, a reminder that each step carried responsibility. The artifacts he had gathered, the pendant, totem, mask, lens, chime, skull, mirror, dagger, vessel, amulet, figurine, and pendant of time, were no longer isolated. The tablet connected them, revealing a network of lessons and history that demanded comprehension, patience, and respect. As he moved toward the chamber's exit, the golden-flecked monkey leapt silently into the shadows. Elias felt the presence of the temple's vigilance more acutely than ever. The stone tablet had shown him that the sanctuary preserved not just objects, but choices and consequences, creating a continuum of wisdom stretching across generations. He tucked the tablet carefully into a satchel designed for careful transport, knowing it would guide him through the sanctuary's final corridors. The pulse of the temple, once subtle, now resonated clearly in his consciousness, a network of guardians, lessons, and history converging to prepare him for the heart of the hidden world. Each artifact, each memory, each pulse of awareness contributed to a growing comprehension. Elias felt the weight of responsibility, but also the quiet thrill of understanding. The sanctuary's ultimate truth lay ahead, and he was ready to meet it, guided by the accumulated wisdom of countless lives preserved within stone, metal, crystal, and the attentive gaze of its eternal guardians. Elias entered a low-ceilinged chamber where the air was thick with the scent of damp stone. At the center, resting upon a carved pedestal, lay the silver bell of hidden echoes. Its surface gleamed faintly, the delicate engravings tracing scenes of humans and monkeys in constant interaction, listening, observing, signaling. He lifted the bell carefully, noting the subtle weight and balance. The golden-flecked monkey watched from a nearby ledge, tilting its head in quiet scrutiny. Elias understood instinctively that the bell was more than a simple instrument. It was a device of perception, designed to reveal that which was hidden or unheard. With a cautious breath he rang it. The sound traveled through the chamber, delicate yet penetrating. At first, only the stone walls responded, vibrating faintly. Then, subtle movements elsewhere became evident. Distant water dripping, shifting stones in far corridors, and faint rustling that suggested the presence of guardians or hidden passages. The bell magnified the sanctuary's internal whispers, transforming them into discernible signals. Elias moved slowly, holding the bell out in front of him, listening to its echoes. He discovered a narrow doorway concealed by moss and shadow. The bell's subtle reverberation revealed its location. A slight shift in pitch indicated the threshold was safe. Each strike of the bell seemed to interact with the sanctuary's architecture, translating vibrations into actionable knowledge. He paused near a series of stone basins, their surfaces engraved with sequences similar to those on the bell. When struck lightly, the bell's tone resonated with the basins, producing faint harmonic overtones. The vibrations highlighted patterns invisible to the naked eye, illuminating safe pathways and revealing hidden alcoves. Elias marveled at the sophistication of the temple's design, a network of sound and vibration guiding, warning and preserving. The golden-flecked monkey moved along the ledges above, occasionally signaling subtle cues, which Elias incorporated into his navigation. He realized that the bell functioned both as guide and communicator, bridging the gap between human perception and the sanctuary's hidden intelligence. It allowed him to see through sound, detecting obstacles and guardians before they could pose a threat. Elias traced the engravings on the bell, noting faint inscriptions along the rim, symbols denoting caution, timing, and awareness. He understood that mastery of the artifact required patience and careful attention. A reckless strike could mislead or summon unintended consequences. The bell, like the other artifacts he had collected, demanded respect, observation, and precise action. Following the echoes, he discovered a passage previously hidden behind a thick wall of vines. The bell's reverberations highlighted the contours of the stones, guiding him safely along uneven steps and moss-covered surfaces. He sensed that the sanctuary was alive with subtle energy, its intelligence encoded not only in the artifacts but in the architecture itself, interacting continuously with those who entered. As he reached the end of the newly revealed corridor, the chamber expanded into a wide hall, bathed in pale light from an unseen source. The silver bell vibrated faintly in his hand, its resonance harmonizing with the ambient hum of the sanctuary. Elias realized that each artifact he had encountered, the pendant, totem, mask, lens, chime, skull, mirror, dagger, vessel, amulet, figurine, amber pendant, and now the bell, worked in concert, each revealing layers of perception and guiding him toward understanding. He set the bell carefully on a stone ledge, listening to the fading echoes. The golden-flecked monkey lingered briefly, then vanished into shadow, leaving him alone with the resonant hum of the sanctuary. Elias felt an increasing awareness of his surroundings, the flow of the temple's energy, and the intricate interplay of guardianship, vigilance, and lesson. With the silver bell's guidance, he felt ready to face the challenges ahead, each step informed by sound, observation, and the cumulative wisdom of centuries preserved within the sanctuary. He pressed forward, attuned to the subtle rhythms and hidden echoes that would continue to reveal the sanctuary's secrets. Elias stepped into a high-ceilinged chamber, where light filtered through cracks in the stone, casting jagged patterns across the floor. At the center, resting atop a pedestal carved like intertwined roots, lay the crystal lens of revealed paths. Its surface was flawless, refracting the ambient light into shifting patterns that seemed to move with the observer's gaze. He lifted the lens carefully, feeling its cool, smooth weight in his hands. The golden-flecked monkey perched above, silent but attentive. When Elias peered through the crystal, the chamber transformed. Faint outlines of hidden corridors, alcoves, and inscriptions shimmered into view. Previously invisible markings along the walls and floors now glowed softly, tracing routes and highlighting symbols that conveyed warnings, guidance, and historical sequences of the sanctuary. The lens revealed subtle shifts in the stone itself, micro-fissures forming pathways, depressions indicating pressure-sensitive triggers, and faint carvings of monkeys in motion, pointing toward concealed doors. Elias realized that the artifact acted as both guide and interpreter, translating the sanctuary's hidden architecture into perceptible patterns. He moved cautiously, following the lens's guidance. Each step illuminated new details, inscriptions denoting past explorers' choices, subtle traps, and alternative routes. The golden-flecked monkey occasionally darted ahead, and through the lens, Elias could see tiny gestures that indicated safe or unsafe areas. He understood that perception alone was insufficient. Comprehension and careful interpretation were required. In one alcove, he found a series of carved panels that seemed mundane to the naked eye. Through the crystal lens, the carvings animated slightly, revealing sequences of movement, the positioning of previous artifacts, and hints of their purpose. Elias traced the images with his fingers, absorbing the lessons encoded in their subtle motion. The sanctuary's intelligence was embedded in layers, and the lens allowed him to access these previously hidden layers. The chamber's corners revealed faint inscriptions, detailing cycles of light, sound, and motion within the sanctuary. The lens allowed Elias to see how past explorers had navigated these sequences, some successfully, some failing to grasp the timing or nuance. He noted the connections between the lens and earlier artifacts, the silver bell, amber pendant, and obsidian figurine all formed part of a system, each amplifying or complementing the guidance of the others. Elias paused near a narrow passage that appeared indistinct to the naked eye. Looking through the lens, he could see a subtle shimmer tracing the safest route, the path of least resistance, and the correct alignment of steps. Without this perspective, he might have triggered hidden traps or misinterpreted the sanctuary's signals. The crystal lens, in effect, allowed him to navigate the sanctuary's secret language visually. He lingered, studying the glowing paths and inscriptions, recognizing that mastery of the sanctuary required both perception and patience. The artifacts collectively shaped understanding, each adding a dimension of awareness: sound, pulse, reflection, vigilance, memory, and now visual clarity. Elias felt the cumulative lessons of his journey converge. Sharpening both intuition and reason, the golden-flecked monkey leapt across a ledge and disappeared into a shadowed corridor, leaving Elias to continue alone. He adjusted the lens to focus on the far end of the hall, revealing a final alcove where a faintly glimmering doorway awaited. Symbols etched around the doorway pulsed in subtle patterns, indicating alignment with prior artifacts and his accumulated comprehension. Elias set the crystal lens carefully in his satchel, aware that its guidance would remain vital in the sanctuary's final chambers. Each artifact he had encountered, the pendant, totem, mask, lens, chime, skull, mirror, dagger, vessel, amulet, figurine, amber pendant, bell, and now the crystal lens had contributed a crucial layer of insight, guiding him toward the sanctuary's heart with precision, understanding, and respect. With measured steps, he pressed onward, the paths revealed through the lens etched clearly in his memory, ready for the final trials that awaited him deep within the hidden sanctuary. Elias entered a wide, vaulted chamber, the air thick and still, illuminated by faint streaks of sunlight filtering through cracks high above. At the center, resting atop a stone pedestal, lay the bronze key of the eternal gate. Its surface was worn smooth from centuries of handling. The intricate engravings, almost hypnotic in their precision. He lifted the key carefully, feeling the weight of its history settle into his palm. The golden-flecked monkey appeared briefly at the chamber's edge, observing with the quiet authority of one who had guided countless travelers. Elias realized that this artifact, unlike any before it, was both culmination and threshold, the tangible bridge to the sanctuary's deepest mysteries. The engravings on the key mirrored motifs seen throughout the sanctuary. The twin guardians, flowing inscriptions of time, depictions of ritual and vigilance, each symbol aligned perfectly with lessons learned from prior artifacts: the obsidian dagger's test of courage, the amber pendant's pulse of timing, the silver bell's revealed echoes, and the crystal lens's illuminated paths. The key seemed to synthesize these lessons into a single purpose, unlocking comprehension itself. Elias approached a massive stone doorway at the far end of the chamber, its surface etched with patterns resembling those on the key. Shadows danced along the carvings as his lantern light flickered, revealing faint grooves and indentations shaped to receive the bronze artifact. He slid the key into the first groove. It fit perfectly, as though designed to acknowledge his cumulative understanding. The sanctuary seemed to hold its breath. Elias turned the key slowly. The mechanism, ancient and intricate, released a low rumble that echoed through the stone corridors. The doorway shifted imperceptibly, revealing a narrow passageway bathed in a soft golden light. He felt a surge of anticipation, tempered by reverence. The final chamber awaited, but entry demanded respect and insight. He paused, reflecting on the path that had brought him here. Each artifact, each trial, had shaped his perception and judgment. The obsidian dagger tested integrity. The ceramic vessel whispered forgotten memories. The golden amulet heightened awareness. The twin guardians emphasized cooperation. The amber pendant attuned him to rhythm, and the silver bell revealed hidden movement. The crystal lens had illuminated paths unseen. The bronze key now stood as the culmination, the final instrument requiring synthesis of all prior lessons. As he stepped through the threshold, the passage beyond widened into a luminous hall. The walls glowed faintly, the air resonant with subtle energy. Symbols on the floor pulsed in gentle waves, guiding his steps, while distant echoes suggested the presence of guardians or perhaps the sanctuary itself observing. The golden-flecked monkey watched momentarily from above, then vanished into shadow, leaving Elias alone with the culmination of his journey. He explored the hall carefully, noting that the key's engravings seemed to interact with inscriptions on the walls. Aligning its symbols with the carvings revealed faintly illuminated sequences on the floor, highlighting the correct path deeper into the chamber. Each movement, each observation, reinforced the lessons embedded in centuries of sanctuary guardianship. At the hall's center, a raised dais awaited, its surface engraved with motifs representing harmony between humans and monkeys, vigilance and careful stewardship. Elias placed the bronze key upon the dais. The room pulsed subtly, responding to the artifact's presence. Light expanded, revealing hidden inscriptions and chambers previously invisible. The key had not merely unlocked a door, it had activated the sanctuary's final layer of revelation. Elias stood quietly, absorbing the significance. The sanctuary's wisdom, preserved through artifacts and guardians alike, was now fully accessible. He felt a profound connection to those who had come before him, to the golden-flecked monkey and to the sanctuary itself. Each lesson, each artifact, had prepared him for this moment, understanding, respect, and discernment aligned to reveal the sanctuary's deepest truths. With the bronze key secured on the dais, Elias exhaled slowly, feeling a sense of completion and readiness. The path ahead, luminous and guided by the sanctuary's accumulated wisdom, awaited him. He stepped forward, ready to witness the culmination of centuries of guardianship, insight, and careful observation.